Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, reach out to me. I am still Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for all of your purchase and pricing requests. That's Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It's still in the description below for the price of this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. So today we're talking about a watch that gives you everything in one package. It's a calculator, it's a chronograph, it's a chronometer, it is a dual time, automatic winding, all in stainless steel. This is the Breitling Navitimer Chronograph GMT. So 46 millimeters in diameter, it's 15.4 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 53.7 millimeters with a 24 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Throwing the watch on my wrist, you can see that it fits well for a big watch that's at least nominally the same diameter of an IWC Big Pilot. I can't wear a Big Pilot, but I could wear this. You can see the lugs are right at the edge of my wrist, but they're not over. And even from over the top, you can see that when I loosen up and I don't pull it quite as tight, the fit is large, but the fit is secure. And the watch would be comfortable for me to wear, but no smaller. If your wrist is smaller than mine, seek a smaller Navitimer. It's neither thick nor thin, but the case is fairly sheer, so some dress cuffs won't clear it, but jackets will just fine. One more time down the barrel. The bracelet is the Navitimer model in high polish. You can see it has a partially conforming end link that mates it to the curve of the case and the slope of the lugs. The Navitimer bracelet is a 7-link design with a diagonal orientation to the links, and you can see there's plenty of gaps between the links to vent the wrist on a hot day. Removable links fixed in place by screws. We've got quite a few of them to fine-tune the fit. Then we have 4 pairs of divots drilled inside the clasp, so you can use your strap tool to dismount the spring bar and change the anchoring point in the clasp. The clasp has a thick gauge steel body and a thick gauge steel single swing arm with a clamshell lock. You can see Breitling here has used screws to fix the clamshell, so over time, this not being a pressed piece, this can be replaced if its tolerances ever become less than snappy. Taking a quick look at the case itself, it's a classic Navitimer design. Minimal beveling on the lug profiles, which are squared off, a relatively thin case band, and the case back is stepped back somewhat, so when it's on the wrist, it actually nestles down and looks a bit thinner than it is. Vintage pump-style pushers and a Breitling B on the crown. We have a case that is 30 meters water resistant, which is standard for aviators. The dial starts with the circular slide rule. So this is the flight calculator that the original Navitimer featured in the early to mid 1950s, depending on when you believe the Navitimer first came out. The idea here was that with some of the units added, things like statute or nautical miles, miles per hour, kilometers per hour, you would be able to perform all of the calculations necessary to fly an airplane. So if you're familiar with other slide rules, you realize that a real slide rule has other scales for things like taking square roots, whereas this is primarily for multiplication and division. So ground speed, airspeed, rate of climb, fuel consumption, drift, those things. Let's talk quickly about how it works. You have this outer scale in silver, and then you have this inner scale. Don't get confused. You can see that there are numerals in a sort of photina gold. Those are for the 24-hour scale. That's for the GMT. These outer scale silver numerals are for the slide rule. So let's just do something very simple. Let's divide 12 by 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 12 on the outer scale, see it right here under my finger, and I'm going to put it over 2 on the inner scale because it works just like a fraction. You got to keep decimals in mind, though. That could be 12 divided by 20 or 12 divided by 2. It could also be a decimal. It could be a fraction of 1 whole unit. So you got to keep the decimal in mind. So 12 divided by 2, we find the inner scale index, which is 10. You look above that, 12 divided by 2 is 6. Again, it says 60, but you got to keep your decimal in mind. Now, let's say I want to multiply 7 by 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put 7 over that inner index of 10, and then I'm going to find the 2. And sure enough, I can see 7 multiplied by 2. There's 2, and just above that is 14. That's how it works. Okay, so inboard, you can see we have a very colorful dial with those photina 24-hour scales, blue metallic sunburst center, silver printing. Now we've got two functions here that don't often occur in pairs. Most watches that have GMT functions have a quick set hour hand. That's how a Rolex GMT works, and so you move the hour hand to adjust the date. What we have here is actually a system that allows you to quickly set that 24-hour hand for the second time zone. Then if you turn in the opposite direction, you activate a traditional quick set. So this is very practical. Now, if I pull the crown out all the way, I activate the hacking seconds function, which is highly desirable since it allows me to set the watch to a reference time. And this movement, caliber 24, being a COSC certified Swiss chronometer, it's a good thing that I can set it to the second. The watch features a vertical, it does not have vertical clutch. It has an oscillating pinion clutch here because this is a 7750 base architecture. The oscillating pinion is a type of lateral clutch that has very little inherent play, which is why it's actually enjoying a renaissance right now in high horology watches from Journe, Richard Mille, and de Bethune. So you have that oscillating pinion engagement system that has very little play in the engagement. There's no jump or stagger, and it uses a very crisp and well-tuned cam style actuation. A 7750, it is a unidirectional winder. It's got a 42-hour power reserve. It's got a 4 hertz beat rate. This version of the 7750 is actually called a 7754 because it features the addition of the independent 24-hour second time zone. And again, it is adjusted in 5 positions as a COSC certified Swiss chronometer. This beautiful steel watch featuring a steel case back to match. You've got a bunch of references for the GMT offsets of various significant cities in the world's 24 principal time zones. So that is what that is all about. And then, of course, it is a certified chronometer. The center is media blasted. It is quite attractive in every way. There is one feature you haven't seen yet, and that is the lume shot. You can see the watch has plenty of luminescence in the dark. If you love this watch, reach out to me. I am T. Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.